Jake and I have a lot of opinions when it comes to player agency and just kind of like doing hit points on the fly. Do you have any thoughts about changing monster hit points on the fly, not using hit points, and just ending a battle like when it seems like the right moment or cool? Like, do you think that affects player agency, or do you think we should cut this out?
You can keep it in whatever you want, but I do have opinions about this, and it's been a pretty common talking point from channels much bigger than I, and a lot of very upvoted Reddit posts about people just saying, hey, I just do the combat until it feels right. If a group likes that and they're aware of it, cool. If your players thought even like 10 seconds about whether to put one more point in strength or dexterity, then they probably care about that +1 mattering and whether they're dealing a certain amount of damage to monsters. And if they go into a situation where they really believe that they can fight anything, because you'll bail them out or you'll just go until it's okay, so they can kind of dink around in combat. Like, again, if people like that, if they just kind of want to have like a little cinematic moment, use their abilities, they're not really into like resource management and making smart battle tactics, they just kind of want to do whatever, then this doesn't matter. But a lot of players, they like to, like, why do people get excited about a nat 20? Because they're going to deal more damage, you know, and it's cool. And they get to describe it cool. Is it as cool if you were going to win combat in the exact same moment if they rolled a natural 1? That feels like it cheapens the experience to me. And so I know that in a lot of DMs, they'll also do things that prevent them from getting burned out, right? They don't want to have too many things to track, and they just kind of want to do things till it feels right. But I will say there's kind of an unspoken thing that I don't think a lot of people clarify when they bring up this topic. And that's like, what does that actually mean to make up or change hit points on the fly? If you've played the game long enough, you probably know like roughly about how many hit points your monster, whether it be homebrew or not, whether you have time to like look it up and skim over to their sheet or whatever. Or maybe you're just kind of going, a harpy has about 40 hit points, and you just call it an even 40, you know? That's a little different. But if you know that a harpy has 40 hit points and they're losing and you decide it dies in 10 hit points, if they notice that, and they will eventually, they just don't feel like combat really matters. And I guarantee that after a while, unless you're like a really good group of friends who have a very specific gaming style, I really believe a lot of people will start to disengage and be disappointed because like they wanted to build a character that does a certain thing and succeeds and fails based on their choices. And if that's not happening, they disengage. And I speak that from experience as a player, because I've played in a lot of games where I noticed my choices didn't matter. The rolls didn't matter. And I realized at the end of a session that was going to go about the same way, whether or not I even showed up to play or not. And that feels like a massive waste of my time. And so that is the cautionary tale, I would say. I'm not going to tell, I don't know, maybe half of the D&D group hobby at this point, or however many people are into this more loose DMing style. I don't know what to call it. People do what they want, and they do what they can to have fun and not get burned out. But I do think some people shoot themselves in the foot, and they wonder why they don't have long-term campaigns that go all the way to level 20 and span 5 years. Well, why would people play 5 years if none of the choices mattered in those 5 years? Let's just start a new campaign with some new character. It's your role play of the week, your flavor of the week. You play it for a few months, you get bored, you start a new campaign. Like that starts to feel more like an improv game, and I already do improv. And so when I play D&D, I want to do D&D.
It's a different game.
It's a different game to me.
Well, I can very confidently say the three of us are on the same page.
Yes.
You said that the most important caveat right in the beginning, if everybody is on board with this and they're aware of it, you can do whatever you want. You can, on a scale of 1 to 20, you can make 8 the highest, and if it makes sense to everybody at the table, then that's fine.
Yeah. In fact, so I'll back up what I'm saying. Like in my most recent session 0 for my campaign I'm running now, I said I'm going to run this game so your choices matter, and I'm not going to save you and like change things on the fly or force you into situations. Like I want you to feel agency. And if you find like third-party books that you want to incorporate, if you want to do strongholds and followers and build a following and a monastery or whatever in the game, like I want to enable that and have fun with that with you. I will not be changing things just to make the random chance of the game not part of the game anymore. So, and I told him that, and I think it'd be good for other people to say like, hey, everybody, I run a game that's mostly improvised, and I really want things to be mostly cinematic. So I want you to more describe things and worry less about like +1s and -1s and stuff like that. And if people want to play that way, they will play, right? And if they don't, they'll say, could we not play that way? And maybe they'd be surprised who would not want that if they really knew what was going on. Who knows? But
yeah,
because so many people are new to the hobby in the last 10 years, right? And so who knows how they're going to feel in another 5 years, or how they're feeling already and realizing about their gaming style. A lot of people have been, it seems like a lot of people with the 5e have been kind of finding their niche and like working away to like another game, or twisting 5e to suit their methods. And so there's lots of different ways people are figuring out they like to play. And so people should talk about it more and be upfront about it and not be so secretive, especially as DMs. When I make a video about player agency, that some people in the comments were like, what about DM agency? Like, you're going to burn out as a DM if you only do what the player's saying. I'm like, I don't think that's what I'm saying. And I do get, I admit this, I do get tired of having to caveat everything I say, because I trust people's intelligence to say, like, I'm talking about one thing, and because I'm talking about one thing doesn't mean I'm saying this other thing doesn't exist, you know?
Yeah.
And there's two kinds of people in this world: people who can extrapolate, and, you know, so that's how I feel about that.
I'm right there with you. I think
like when people come in and say like, hey, I want to add to this, but if someone says something like, someone used the word myopic with me recently, and I'm like, I chose one topic. You could call it myopic if you want, but I'm not going to make a 1 hour video talking about every caveat in the world. I'm going to trust my audience's intelligence more than that.
As you should. I think the one way that I like to change hit points is, this is my personal opinion, it just adds to the fun. If I have someone who, like, they just did a ridiculous attack and the monster has like 1 hit point left, I will then say, because most of the time I'm just using like average hit points if I'm using something from the monster manual, I'll say to my players, like, whatever the hit dice are for that creature, I'll be like, everybody roll that die. And if they roll, you know, we're deciding what the hit points are at that moment, and if they roll less than what the average is, then it's like, yeah, you got it. You know, it was still up to chance. I feel like it doesn't cheapen the experience. I think maybe it toes the line, but
that sounds fun. I've never heard of someone doing that.
No, and on the player side of that, I can say I've never, like, I'm fine with the results no matter what. Like, if I got someone down to 1 hit point, okay, great. They're hanging on by a thread and we're almost there, boys. Like, let's go. Yeah. You know, like, that's fine. And if not, then all right, sweet, I got him.
Yeah, I actually love this. There are times when I say to my players, like, they're pursuing something, and I tell them, hey, roll a d20. Tell me if it's even or odd, you know, and I let them decide. And like my most recent session, they were traveling, and I have a table of random encounters, and I don't repeat them, but some of them are good and some of them are bad. And so I tell them to roll, and I have kind of like a DC in mind based on how long they've been traveling, and I have them roll. And if they roll high, I say, do you want a random encounter or not? I let them decide. You know, and then all the players, it's kind of like this uproar. They're like, we can't survive another one. They're like, but what if it's a good one? You know, so it's a lot of fun to kind of put the DM dice in the players' hands once in a while. Sometimes you let them know what you're rolling for, sometimes you don't, and I think that's fine and fun.
Thanks for watching. You can catch the rest of our conversation with Jordan by clicking the video on screen now. You can also find links to his YouTube channel, flutesloot.com, in the description, as well as most likely the pinned comment. And if you have any questions or thoughts about what was said, please let us know in the comment section.